Okay, good evening. Tonight is Tuesday, January 11th, 2022. This is a meeting of the Goffstown Budget Committee. My name is Joe Alexander. I'm chairman of the committee. First thing I'm going to do is ask Vice Chair Fred Plett to call the roll.
All right. Stacy Bellimer, you're here.
Present.
Spencer Diaz.
Present.
Normally I say they're here because I can see them, but they're all behind me now, so I have to ask. Lauren Dukas.
Present.
Greg Flegel is excused. Bill Cordes.
Present.
Dennis Lynch. Richard Manzo.
Present.
I'm here. Evelyn Redmond.
Present.
Melanie Redford Hebert.
Present.
That's Fred, right? Yeah.
Skylar Sun.
Present. I guess it does.
Jared Talbert.
School board is present.
Okay, Richard Fletcher was excused. Mark LeMay.
Select Board Rep present.
Vacant unassigned isn't here. Chairman Joe Alexander, you're present.
I'm here.
Correct? Okay, so we have 12 people present. We do have a quorum.
Perfect. Thank you, Fred. So next thing on our agenda is Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I want to just take a minute and apologize for the way these tables are set up. We were trying to set up down there traditionally how the meetings have been done in the past, but when we set up down there, there was quite a bit of feedback with some new speakers that were installed. So if I have my back to you, it's just because I'm facing the committee as well, so I want to kind of juggle between the two. So tonight is the public hearing for Goffstown Budget Committee. So this is where we give the public the opportunity to comment on any school budget or school budget, warrant articles, town budget, town articles. There's also a petition article. So I'm going to open up each of these different subjects, and we're going to have a brief presentation on how we came to our budget, and then give the opportunity for the public to ask questions or speak for or against something. So the first thing I'm going to start with for the budget is the school side. So I'm going to have School Board Rep Jared Talbot come up and present the Goffstown Budget Committee's school budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everybody that's present and my fellow members of the Budget Committee. Which one? Are these both accurate? This one's accurate? Thank you, Mr. Gross. So I apologize. Normally when I'm teaching in Durham, I have a screen in front of me. So unfortunately, since I don't have that, I will be kind of putting my back to you sometimes to reference the slides, but then, of course, address the crowd in the group as well. So this is the proposed operating budget for the Goffstown School District. To just refresh everybody, there are two budgets that are in the warrant article for warrant article number 2. There's the default budget, which we'll briefly touch on during this presentation, and the proposed budget. The default budget is approved by the Goffstown School Board. It's really more of we understand that this is what the default budget is based on our RSAs, and then they promote a proposed budget to the Budget Committee, and this is where the Budget Committee then takes that information, and of course we amend it as we see fit here in the Budget Committee, and this is what will be showing up as a second part of warrant article number 2 for our school portion of our voting. So if we move forward, please, our proposed budget for 2022-2023, so that's the next fiscal year, is currently $48,854,400. I'm sorry, let me try this again. $48,854,882. And this really comprises 3 different components within the budget itself. So as you see, the general fund, Fund 10, this is the amount of $45,609,859. This is the operating budget, if you will, that we'll use here within the Goffstown School District. However, there are 2 additional components that we have to add to the total budget. The first one is the food services. So food services is what I would call a revenue neutral. This is the amount of money that is spent as well as the amount of money received by people buying lunches, buying snacks at our different cafeterias here at the school. We must include that per RSA in our total operating budget, but this is something that is funded through the sales of those concessions. The next one is our special revenue fund. So this is $2 million. This is the same as our default. This is the money that we receive due to special revenue from the state or from the federal government. If we look at revenues, so we're not just looking at expenses, what you'll see on this slide is the projected revenues. Now again, I use the term projected. This is forecast. This is not set in stone. This is our best educated guess based on empirical data that we have from history. So we have local, state, and federal. We have our unused or use of fund balance where appropriate and provided by the taxpayers where we're approved to have that money. We have the New Hampshire adequacy, the SWEPT, which is the, Mr. Bulkey would say, the state money raised and held at the local level. And then our total revenues that we have is roughly $24,186,089. So general fund portioning for our budget. What we will see here is our current budget is $45,494,111. We're proposing an increase from our current year's budget for our proposed budget, not default, our proposed budget. Our increase is $115,748. So very minimal what we're asking for an increase for our proposed budget that will be in warrant article number 2. This represents a quarter, actually 0.025, so it's less than a quarter. It's a 0.125% increase from what our current budget is. And one thing to note, as we'll talk about potentially later on, or we will be talking about later on, is this does not include any other warrant articles. So this does not include the Goffstown Education Association contract that is up for review by our taxpayers. What accounts for our budget increase? So I'm going to really highlight this, and I'll let people read because I don't want to insult your intelligence. But the first piece is we are asking for a new employee that would be a teacher interventionalist position within our Bartlett Elementary School. Right now, I believe we have half a person that does this role, and what we found during the COVID process is we need to increase this to an additional person. So there is one new employee that is being asked for within this budget. All the other pieces are contractual obligations that we have due to contracts for energy, contracts for busing, contracts for healthcare that we must increase, and that's really what goes into our increase of $115,000. Our next slide is our enrollment. So as you can see, our enrollment projected for next year, starting on October 1st, is 2,864 students. And you can see the breakdown between Glen Lake, both elementary schools, the middle school, and the high school. One thing to note, because we do put past enrollments here, and I do have to ensure that I say this appropriately, for 2019, 2020, and 2021, specifically 2020 and 2021, at the Glen Lake School, we did not include role models. So if you have a pre-K student or a pre-K individual that you wanted to send to Glen Lake, we would not accept them due to the COVID concerns and the spacing that was needed. Traditionally, we do have 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds designated as role model students that work with our other students that have individual education plans at those levels. We have not had those for the past couple years, but we do have them this year, and we will be hopefully including them next year if everything goes well with our pandemic. Our current budget versus our proposed budget. So you see a breakdown by school of what the differences are between our current budget year and our proposed budget for next fiscal year. You see the differences at Bartlett, Maple, you see a reduction at Glen Lake, you see a reduction at the middle school, and you see a reduction at the high school. One note about the high school is that we no longer have the bond for the theater. for the additional section that we have here at GHS. So because we no longer have to pay that bond with interest, that does fall off our current budget. Tax history. So this is really where the Budget Committee comes in, because we're always focused on what is our tax rate going to be with all of the budgets that we have to look at. So I've asked Mr. Gross, who's our financial admin for the school district, to list out what he thought our projected tax rate would be when we did our budgeting and what our current or actual tax rate was that's set by the select board. So as you see, with 2019, we had a tax rate from the school of $13.28. We were projecting somewhere less than $14. However, when we actually, when the select board set the tax rate for the school, we were looking at $13.47. When we look at the 2020 tax rate, again, $13.47, we were projecting a tax rate for this year of $14.45, but our tax rate that was set was $13.33. The reason why I really list this out is, even though that we all love Mr. Gross, he's a great individual, he continually overprojects what our tax rate's going to be, and it usually comes in less. The reason why I say that is, if we flip to the next slide, Mr. Gross has looked at our budgets, and he's projecting a tax rate of $14 to $14.10 per estimated 1,000. Again, this is his estimate, but I would caution everybody that, yes, I believe that this is over forecasted, and the select board will look at the multiple pieces of data that they have when they actually set our tax rate. Some things that are listed here, I do want to state really quickly. Tax rates are only estimates, of course. This is set by the select board based on different conditions or even money left over within our budget that the school cannot hold, but we must give back for tax purposes, tax relief. The above tax rate is for the proposed operating budget. So this is not the default budget. This is the proposed budget. The teacher's CBA article, which will be warrant article number 3, is going to estimate an increase for our tax implication of 60 cents per 1,000 assessed. So I wanted to make sure that we did include not only what our operating budget was, but for each financial warrant article that we have, what the estimated tax rate would be. So our CBA that we'll have for warrant article number 3 will increase our taxes only by 60 cents per 1,000. There is another warrant article, which is the Capital Reserve Fund. This will set a increase of, I believe it was 11 cents. I don't know why it's not here. But there is another warrant article for $200,000 into our Capital Reserve Fund for $200,000, which has a tax rate increase of 11 cents. Unfortunately, that is not on the screen, but I did want to make sure that we mention that as well. So our Goffstown School District warrant articles that we'll have is, number 1 is our elected officials. I would, of course, recommend and highly, I would promote any member of the public to run for any position here at the town. It is a fun job. It's a thankless job, but we do love it, and that's why we continue to seek re-election. But there is a vote. There will be 3 members of the school board that are up for election, and I would just let the town or the public know about that. Warrant article number 2 is the district's operating budget. This will be our default budget if the proposed budget is not passed by our tax people here in Goffstown. Warrant article number 3 is a contract, a teacher's contract, a CBA. The high-level analysis, if you have not been spending time with the Budget Committee or the school board, this is a 4-year proposed contract with our awesome teachers here at the Goffstown Education Association, and that will be warrant article number 3. Warrant article number 4 is a continuation of our area agreement. We do have an area agreement with New Boston. They send their students, starting at grade 7 through graduation, to the middle school and to the high school. We do receive revenue from New Boston. Every 10 years, we have to vote on if we want to maintain that area agreement. That area agreement is up for vote this March and is warrant article number 4. Warrant article number 5 is our CRF deposit using our unassigned fund balance. So again, that's at $200,000 that could be only spent for capital replacement here within the school system. And then our last article is not brought to the Budget Committee, but we wanted to share it with the rest of the public. That is Article number 6, and that is to raise our contingency fund at the school district from 2.5% to 5%. And again, if you aren't familiar with the contingency fund, this is the amount of money that's left over from the year that we're allowed to hold on to only for 1 year, only for emergencies. If it is not used, then it does go back to offset taxes within the town. The last time I believe that this fund was used was to remove asbestos here at the high school for our flooring. So it's used very seldomly and very rarely, but it is important for those emergencies that do come up.
Thank you, Jared. So what I'm going to ask for the public hearing is we're going to do the school side public hearing and then move over the town side, which I'll conduct. So I'm going to ask Jared if you want to read through each warrant article and ask the public if there's any comments or questions about those specific articles. And when you come up to the microphone, just state your name and road or address. Is that tip? Just name and address would be great.
And I don't have the school warrant articles language with me. Thank you. So we're going to start with warrant article number 2. So this is article number 2, which is our operating budget. I shall read this word for word, and again, my dyslexia will kick in, so I might have to do it a couple times. Shall the Goffstown School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by the vote of the first session for the purposes set forth within, totaling $48,854,882. That's our proposed budget. Shall this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $48,548,234, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by provisions, previous actions of the Goffstown School Board or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 30-13X and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Majority vote is required by our taxpayers.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments about the school side operating budget? Okay, great. Go ahead and move on.
I'll move on to warrant article number 3, which is our teacher collective bargaining agreement. Shall the Goffstown School District vote to approve the cost of items included in the Goffstown Education Association 4-year collective bargaining agreement reached between the Goffstown School Board and the Goffstown Education Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. For 22-23, the estimated increase is $1,106,112. For fiscal year 23 into 24, the estimated increase is $1,022,948. For fiscal year 24 into 25, the estimated increase is $1,018,015. In the last year of our collective bargaining agreement, which is fiscal year 25 into 26, the increase is $908,485. And further to raise the appropriate the sum of the years that I've just listed, to be raised by taxation for the purposes of funding the additional costs attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current staffing levels. The appropriation in this addition to warrant article number 2, which is the operating budget.
Thank you, Jared. Any comments or questions about the area CBA with the teachers union? Hi.
Good evening. My name is Brian Balke. I'm a resident of New Boston, and I'm also your very proud superintendent of schools. I'd like to thank the Budget Committee for all the work that you've put into the budgets, reviewing for hours and having very thoughtful discussions and deliberations. I'd like to ask this evening for the Budget Committee to support this teacher contract. I will tell you that our teachers are incredible. and they are people that we have been able to count on tremendously. They have done Herculean things during this pandemic. We are trying to get our teachers to about the 50th percentile. I need the Budget Committee to understand that when we have open positions, we're competing with all surrounding towns. So, as you're likely aware, there is a significant labor shortage at this point in time. We're not able to find teachers, we can't find support staff, much less thinking about some of the hard-to-find positions like special education, science, math, etc. So what I'd like to ask is that we would support the teachers. I'm going to give a little bit of brief history. So this is my 9th year as your superintendent, and when I came in, we had 2 years that the teachers went without a contract. Those 2 years took us 6 years to get those teachers whole for those missed years. We take significant steps backwards if we don't have a contract. Your influence is important in this process. I'm so proud of our teachers. They are our most valuable asset, and I would respectfully request that you support this teacher contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Any other comments? Okay, go ahead, Jared. Oh, one more.
My name's Christine Bean. I live at 5 Bend Circle. I'm also a teacher of 16 years at Goffstown High School. I know you know that we work hard, and I know you just heard Mr. Balke say that we work hard. To give you a for instance, most of the teachers in the math department created video lessons for our entire school year for our kids during COVID. I spent 20 hours a week all summer long making my videos for my calculus students and my Algebra 2 honors students. And I did that outside of my regular payday, right? Because summer is supposed to be my time. I work in my evenings, working with students that have deficits. Sometimes I'm up till 11 or midnight getting stuff ready for these kids because that's what it takes, and I'm willing to do what it takes for my students. I'm not alone in this endeavor. Our teachers are working tirelessly through this pandemic. We've been working tirelessly for 2 years. I meet with my curriculum coordinator probably on a weekly basis. We can't hire positions. We tried for 2 years to bring in a physics teacher because we have too many students for one physics teacher, and nobody applied because they applied to other schools that were paying more. We already still have a deficit in science teachers because people are applying to positions where they can get paid more. And we're also losing good teachers. Teachers come to us, get the experience they need for AP. We bring in people like Warren Palmera, who is a retired physics teacher, who trains our up-and-coming AP teachers. They teach for a cycle or two, and then they move to our neighboring communities because they pay better. And it's just a vicious cycle of teachers teaching 6 classes because we can't fill positions. This year of students having to not take classes because we couldn't fill positions in our tech department. And again, I feel that if you were to approve a budget that put us at that 50th percentile, you would get people coming in and applying for these positions because they knew it was more competitive. And you would also get teachers to want to stay in the district instead of us continuously footing backwards where we have to bring in new teachers and retrain. And as a mother of a student who just graduated a year ago, bringing in new teachers to teach courses is not in the best interest of our students on an AP level. when we could have these AP teachers staying in our school so that we could improve these teachers from year to year and improve the experience for our students and the pass ratio on AP exams. So I really, really hope you will strongly consider what Mr. Bulkey has asked you, the time that we've put into this budget, the hard work of all of the teachers in this district, and try and help us to improve the quality of longevity of teachers and to fill all those positions that nobody will apply for. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Krista Scarlett, 207 Kennedy Hill Road, Goffstown. Teacher of 17 years here at Goffstown High School, mother of 3 students who have gone through the Goffstown system. And I took a lot of notes, and Mr. Balke and Christine Bean pretty much covered everything, but I just wanted to say, I guess a question would be, what message would we be sending if we didn't approve this? We have teachers, educators, staff that have done so much over the last 2 years in particular, challenging times, and I think that you could send the message that you care, send the message that we're doing hard work, you appreciate it, send the message that we can continue working together. So I wanted to just thank you for the work you have put in, and we really hope that you'll be with us, stand with us, and pass this budget. Thank you.
Go right ahead.
Jennifer Boschmann. I live in New Boston. I'm a teacher here this is my 13th year. And to say that the past couple years has been difficult is a huge understatement, but I think that we're trying our hardest and working hard, extra hours, to do what we need to do to get kids to move along. We're making up for deficiencies every day. Remote learning was difficult. I was fully remote last year, and I had kids fluxing in and fluxing out all year, trying to gauge where they were, get them back on with every other kid in terms of skill level and acclimating to where we were in class. It was very difficult, outside of my comfort zone. I had to rework my curriculum and adapt it to Google Classroom. And so, just like Christine said, that takes extra hours that's not built into your regular day. So this is looking forward and looking back a little bit, I think, as well, in terms of the budget. My own daughter said to me tonight, she said, "Mom, I love math because of my teacher." And she's a kid that's in the district. And I'm just so grateful to the teachers in this district for the job that they do on a daily basis. And, you get a lot for a little in this district. You really do. We have some of the best test scores in the entire state of New Hampshire, and yet, the teachers aren't paid near what some of our neighboring districts are. And so I think that it goes a long way for all of us to feel supported in that endeavor. So I would urge you, please, to pass this contract. It means a lot.
Thank you. I'm looking over at that group. Anybody else over there? Perfect. Thank you.
My name is Megan Terrio. I live at 1 Timberwood Drive. I'm also a teacher at the high school. I think this is my 15th or 16th year. And I think I could tell you how hard we all work and how much we all care about your students. I don't have children. I care deeply about the humans that are in front of me every day. I don't know that that's as persuasive as what Christine said. It makes zero fiscal sense for us as a district to pay for people to go to AP camp, to get special certifications, to support them through master's classes like I did through SNHU, only for them to leave in a couple of years. So I just don't understand. I'm a humanist. I understand the humanist approach. I don't know that that's the most effective. I do think math is the most effective. It doesn't make any sense to me that we're investing in people who spend 1 or 2 years in this district and then peace out to make 10 or 15 grand more in surrounding districts that we've invested in, who care about our kids. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I would encourage you to support this budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could I ask the mics to be raised a little bit? I'm having trouble catching all of the words.
Yep, so a question was just asked to make sure, get the mics raised up if that's possible. Thank you.
I'm old and deaf, I admit.
We still like you, Fred. All right, anybody else would like to speak about Article 3? Okay, perfect. Jared.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Article 4 is not a budget item, so we'll not be referring to it at this public hearing. It will be during the deliberative session. Article 5 is the Facilities Capital Reserve Deposit. To see if the Goffstown School District will vote to raise and appropriate $200,000 for deposit into the existing Facilities Capital Reserve Fund. This sum is to come from June 30th, 2022, unassigned fund balance, the surplus, available for transfer on July 1st, 2022. No amount to be raised from taxation. A majority vote is required for this article as well.
Thank you, Jared. Are there any questions or comments with Article 5?
4.
5. Perfect.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Article 6 is an item that does not come before the Budget Committee, and it will be reviewed at deliberative session. And this concludes all of the school board information for the Budget Committee.
Awesome. Thank you, Jared. So the plan is going to be to do the public hearing on the town side of the budget, allow those to speak with regards to the articles on that budget, and then after that I'll close the public hearing and open up the Budget Committee meeting where we'll be voting on each article. So I'm going to ask Town Administrator Derek Horn if he'd like to come up and present that for us.
Good evening. For those that I haven't had an opportunity to meet, my name is Derek Horn. I'm the town administrator. If you could do the next slide. We'll start off first with the proposed operating budget for the town. The town operating budget consists of the general fund, which runs town operations and is primarily funded through property taxes. Our EMS special revenue fund, which is 100% funded through EMS ambulance billing, and our sewer enterprise fund, which is funded 100% by sewer users. The proposed 2022 operating budget is $26,753,131. The majority of this presentation will focus on the general fund, as it is the portion that contributes to property taxes. Townwide, in your operating budget on the general fund side, you have contractual increases for 3 union. This is our firefighters, our DPW Teamsters, our patrol officers, and dispatch and clerk. They currently all have CBAs, so those are contractual obligations that were previously approved. There are step increases for eligible non-union employees. This year, there's a 3.0 wage matrix adjustment for library employees. They did not get a wage matrix adjustment in 2021. There's also a 3% wage matrix adjustment for other non-union employees. There was an adjustment in 2021 for those employees. However, we have found that we are lagging behind the consumer price index when this wage matrix was first brought in 2017. We're also lagging behind significantly against area towns that we compete against for our workforce. Also in our budget, you'll see an increase in the New Hampshire retirement system rates. Unlike the school, where the entire increase hit their budget this past year, we only experienced 6 months of that rate increase, so our retirement rates reflect that. Next slide. Also in our town-wide operating budget, we have 8 full-time firefighters that were previously approved at town meetings. We have 4 that were part of the 2019 SAFER grant that has also a 35% offsetting revenue from FEMA. And then our newest firefighters are 2021 firefighters that joined us about a month ago. They are 100% offset for the next 3 years, and they just came on board in November. There is a new full-time position at the Parks and Rec department in this budget, and there is also an increase in staffing in our assessing and building offices at Town Hall, where we go from 2 part-time employees to 1 full-time and 1 part-time. Also in the budget, in our CIP, our capital improvement programs, we're replacing a 1999 fire engine with an engine pumper. The cost of this is pretty significant, but is 100% offset from a fund set aside in the Capital Reserve Fund. This is $775,000. This is our oldest engine, a 1999, and if this is approved at this budget, it takes quite a while for an engine to be outfit, constructed, and built. So by the time the new engine actually gets here, this one will be 23 to 24 years old, and it's just in fair condition. We maintain our police cruiser replacement program, where we do 3 cruisers a year. We also have multiple DPW vehicles in the budget. In this budget, we maintain the $1.6 million dedicated to reclamation in the road plan. There is also traffic signal upgrades, bridge design, and a recycling building compactor, and then there's other facility and networking projects townwide. So just to give a breakdown, when you compare it against our default budget, our default budget on the general fund side is $22,914,628, and our proposed budget on the general fund side is $24,332,446. It's a significant difference of about $1.4 million. I can point to 2 items in this budget that account for approximately $1 million of that 1.4. One is that fire engine at $775,000 that has an offsetting revenue, so that will have no tax impact in this budget. Also, we have a complete network refresh in townwide to refresh our network switches, our core network infrastructure. That's about $212,000 above default for that equipment. So just those 2 right there make up the difference between default and the operating. I'm not going to read this, but so if anyone does need to look at what the full definition of default budget is, it's there printed for everyone. So to remind our budget committee and anybody that may be watching, default budget, there are increases that are included. That is our DPW Teamsters, patrol officers, and dispatchers and clerks CBAs that were previously approved. Our 8 firefighters that were approved in 2019 and 2021, as well as our New Hampshire retirement system employer rates that we're subject to. Items that are not included in default, step increases for our eligible non-union employees, those 2 matrix adjustments I spoke of, the new full-time Parks and Rec position, and the increased hours at Town Hall. And then again, I'll point one more time to those 2 projects in CIP, the fire truck replacement and the increase over 2021 for network infrastructure. I'm going to go through all the budgetary warrant articles? Or
Yeah, we're going to do it the same process we did the school side.
All right. So the first budgetary warrant article, then you will see a change on these warrant article numbers when we actually get to deliberative, because we do not have the zoning articles at this point, but for the purposes of tonight. Article 2, this is a warrant article that DRA instructed the town to start doing in 2017 or 2018. This funds the portion to fund EMS from the Special Revenue Fund. If this is not passed at town meeting, the $492,851 will need to be funded through taxation, and which would have about a 28-cent impact on the tax rate. So this allows us to appropriate out of that special revenue fund and pay for those ambulance services. So again, if this isn't paid, it would have to be collected in property taxes.
Okay. Any questions or comments on Article 2? Perfect. Go ahead.
The next item is Article 3. This is our firefighters contract that was negotiated. It's a 3-year term. The increases in year 1 are $202,000. In the second year, $86,017, and in year 3, $79,984. I'll go on to the next slide to go into some of the particulars. This CBA covers 25 positions. The last time a firefighter's contract was before the voters, there were 13 positions, 12 shift personnel and our fire inspection officer. In 2020, the town went to 24/7 coverage of full-time firefighters that is also assisted by our part-time force. So we now have 24 full-time firefighters that work on a 4-day shift, on a 24/7 shift. That includes that. During the last 3 years of our last contract, we had 9 firefighters, 8 firefighters and 1 lieutenant leave for area agencies. We're seeing area agencies above us in starting wages, as well as in those first 18 months, people are able to get 2 and 3 steps where they're getting increases immediately. So we've lost a significant amount of firefighters to other agencies. In this new agreement, we focused on any language changes that needed to be done for 24/7. And the starting pay for a probationary firefighter would be $22 under this, and then after that first full year of probation, it would be $22.75. So there you get an idea of what our firefighters start off at and what they do for our community.
Any questions or comments on firefighter CBA? Perfect. Go ahead. Oh, yeah. Go ahead and just go right to the mic, please. Thank you. Please, just for the record.
Megan Terrio, 1 Timberwood Drive. Can we go back to the last slide, if that's possible? So a new firefighter in Goffstown makes $22 an hour. Is that accurate?
They do not now. Currently, they make $20.30.
Do we know what surrounding towns are paying?
The average was about $22.50. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but the average was approximately $22.50. Maybe Danielle can pull that up real quick.
Okay. No, that's okay. I could Google it. I was just like appalled at that. Seems like a very low number. But if the average is $22.50, then
yeah, we shot for the 50%, the average. Looking at southern New Hampshire in departments that were similar to ours, we did not include Concord, Nashua, or Manchester because those forces are significantly different than what we have. But those are a lot of the communities. We're losing them to Merrimack. We are losing them to Nashua and Concord as well. But Merrimack, Henniker, a lot of different places.
Okay. I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's quite all right. Thank you. All right, we're going to move right on.
So Article 4, this would be a deposit into the Fire Apparatus Capital Reserve Fund. This fund was established in 2008, and annually town meeting has deposited funds into this Capital Reserve Fund. This allows us to avoid those one-time spikes in the tax rate. So this year we are seeking to spend $775,000 on a fire engine. That would be a big ask all in one meeting. And the Select Board is proposing that this sum to come from unassigned fund balance. So it would have no additional impact on property tax.
Any comments? Okay.
Article 5, this is to, again, this is another project from unassigned fund balance for the amount of $250,000 for the purpose of purchasing and installing ventilation and fire suppression at the Public Works Garage. For those who may not be aware, our Public Works Garage stores millions of dollars worth of vehicles and equipment. There's also 4 full-time employees that work in there. You see it here on your slides. Recently, Henniker, New Hampshire experienced a loss where they had a fire that completely wiped out all the vehicles in that garage, and then also in Charlotte, Vermont. The ventilation is substandard, and they need to be run on a daily basis to keep our DPW fleet as going, as well as vehicles from the fire department, police department, Parks and Rec, and our town hall building inspector. So they assist all the departments. And this project is really possible because of a recent water main extension to DPW now provides a reliable source of water for those sprinklers.
Great. Any comments on that? Okay, we'll move right on.
The next item is another project from unassigned fund balance. This is for the purpose of purchasing and installing an air curtain burner. This is a device that allows DPW to burn brush and small logs that are dropped off at the transfer station in a more environmentally and efficient manner. As many people, like myself, might have seen as you're getting off the mountain at Mountain View Middle School, if you're leaving there in morning drop-off and you come down the hill, you will see a plume of smoke coming up from the transfer station. That's because they've been burning a lot of brush there in an effort to save the town funds. Typically, if we were to have a grinding contractor come in, it's about $10,000 per grind, which occurs several times a year. They're seeking to purchase this from fund balance so they can continue that burning, but do it in a more environmentally safe manner and in a more efficient manner as well.
Any comments? Okay.
Next item, Article 7, is $75,000 for the purchase of replacing the truck scale at a Public Works transfer station. For anyone that's been to the transfer station, this is the pit by the building where you check in. This not only checks in all demolition or waste material that needs to be weighed, it also weighs the commercial trash that's going to our disposal sites, as well as DPW trucks for road salt tracking so that they can determine how much road salt is being put down and that it's being done in an efficient manner. The scale is original to the facility, and the steel frame is in very bad shape. A recent inspection advised emergent repairs are needed, and cribbing was recommended as a temporary safety measure. I can tell you that our DPW director reported last night to our select board in his written report that they are going to start looking at options because the truck scale is in such bad repair there because of the corrosion of the metal there. So this is a very important project for us. And again, this would be from unassigned fund balance.
Anyone from the public have a comment? Okay, go ahead, Derek.
So the final budgetary warrant article submitted by the Select Board to come from unassigned fund balance is $100,000 to conduct a 10-year update to our GIS mapping data. So what we do with these funds is we hire a company to come in and fly the town and provide aerial photography. This aerial photography is used by our assessing department as well as our DPW and buildings. So for example, 10 years ago when this was done, there were over 500 changes to parcels, new roads, subdivisions, and this helps us keep track. That GIS system is available on our website, so appraisers, realtors use this data as well as homeowners. So it is data that's available for everyone, but it's very important for our departments to have this data.
Awesome. Any comments on that one? Okay. So we're going to move on to two articles. Were these submitted by the public?
These, so Article 9 was put on the warrant by the Select Board.
Okay.
This was $20,000 for the purpose of helping to support programs of Goffstown nonprofit Crispin House. They are a nonprofit agency that provides youth drug, alcohol, and suicide prevention services. So this was placed on the ballot by the Select Board.
Perfect. Diane, would you like to say anything about that, or? I mean, you've already presented. I just want to give the opportunity if you'd like.
Hey there, Diane McCarthy, Executive Director of Crispin's House Coalition for Youth, 116 Mountain Base Road in Goffstown. Just want to urge your support of the Crispin's House warrant article. As you all know, we are your youth agency here in town, working to weave a safety net for our youth with a number of different programs that we run for all the kids grades 7 through, actually now 5, grades 5 through 12 here in Goffstown. Very, very proud of the work that we do. We've been changing lives here since 1989. This warrant article, it represents about 20% of our operating budget, but I cannot stress enough how significant it is in our solvency and in our ability to continue to offer the programs that we do for our kids. Anytime I apply for a grant, what do they want to know? Do you have support? That we can say we have the support of our town has been a game changer for us. So I would strongly encourage and ask that you do support and recommend this warrant article for Crispin's House. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. All right, would you like to move on? Just the last two.
Yes, so Article 10, this again was placed on the ballot by the Select Board. This would be to vote to raise and appropriate $15,000 for the purpose of helping to support the nonprofit Goffstown Main Street program. Again, this is a nonprofit that focuses on economic vitality for the Goffstown Village. They run the Goffstown Pumpkin Regatta, as well as other events like Light Up the Common, or Friday Night Lights, I should say, and Uncommon Art on the Common.
Great. Thank you, Derek. Is there anyone from the public? Ellen, would you like to say anything? Or are you all set? Okay, great. Thank you, Derek. So there's one more article that was put on by petition, so
yeah, if, I'll just speak to the petition process. I believe the petitioners here may wish to speak to it. We did receive one petition. This was to vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 for the purpose of studying to bring Station 17 to current safety standards. Again, this is proposed as from unassigned fund balance. To do a petition warrant article, they need to get the signature of 25 registered voters. Our supervisor checklist did check this, and there were 49 certified signatures on that petition that was submitted last week. I believe a copy was emailed to all the Budget Committee members, so you did have that information. The Select Board is aware of this petition article, but they have not had the opportunity to vote a recommendation for or against it. They will do that at their meeting on January 24th.
Okay. So I'd like to give an opportunity to any of the public wish to come up and advocate for or against this. Absolutely, please.
I'm Mr. Martell. I live on East Dunbarton Road in Goffstown. Station 17 is in that end of town. If anybody's aware of East Goffstown, it's all high hills, curvy. The response time is very long for the fire department to get there. It's a lot longer than them heading to Bernardville. And I think we need to have that station back over there because we have no protection at all. So I would urge the Budget Committee to recommend this because we need something there. We had it before. It was done voluntarily at one time. It was built voluntarily. It didn't cost the town any money for that station.
Thank you. Will you take a question from a member of committee?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Fred.
And Fred, I'm old too, but I'm not deaf yet.
I think part of the problem was the mass, so it did muffle some people, so I could barely pick up their words.
Right.
Anyway, where did the figure $200,000 come from? What kind of study has been done to say that would get it up to current safety standards, and what are current safety standards?
Well, this is the thing, to hire an outfit that would come in and see what has to be done under the current safety standards of the station. I understand the well has arsenic in it. I know there's types of filters you can put to filter that out. And to get rid of the exhaust when they start the engine, all these different things. Excuse me. I don't know what it's going to cost, but if it only costs $75 to have someone come in The rest of the money ends up going back into the general fund or wherever it goes, you know. I have no idea. But all I want to do is I want to see if we can get something back at that end of town. Because when they come from the main town, they got to come up Terrell Hill. That's the shortest way to come up this way into East Goffstown. And they got two hills. 1 3/4 of a mile, 2 sharp curves, and then they got another one almost a mile long. They can't go up there at 45 miles an hour.
Okay. I'm Stacy.
Oops. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So is this money for a study or to reopen?
For a study to see if it's feasible to bring it up to safety standards or maybe think about another station. Or we do a safety complex closer to the center of all the areas.
Does anybody else? Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Has anyone that started the petition or signed the petition spoken to Chief Allard to discuss either that figure or to see what his feedback is since it's his station?
Everybody that I spoke to sign the petition was surprised that the station had been closed for a few years. Nobody ever knew in our end that the station was closed because they keep it plowed and they have vehicle parked there once in a while.
But may I follow up? Yep. Thank you. But has anyone spoken, because I believe I've heard that peripherally from the chief, as far as concerns to that station. I live in the neighborhood. I understand the concerns. I know that we've lost a few houses in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So I understand
They're
that.
1,000 right now.
But the figure is large, and I was wondering if anyone had gone to the chief to see, Chief, what's the problem? Where's the figure?
I spoke with the chief.
Yes.
All right. I went to see him. But I went in front of the Board of Selectmen first. I wanted to know why it was closed. They said, talk to the chief. So I spoke to the chief. Doesn't meet all the safety standards. I can understand that because they have to get rid of the exhaust when they fire up them engines to take them out of there, so it doesn't stay in the building. There's all kinds of other things. But engineers today are very pricey. They don't come in and work for $22 an hour or $100 an hour. They're very pricey when they come in. And they got to look up what all the safety standards are and everything.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Sorry, I got to turn around. Evelyn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Martell.
I can't, nobody can hear you. I'm glad you said it.
No. It's okay. Okay, I can talk loud enough.
All right.
What we're trying to determine is, where did you get the $200,000 amount to allow for this study?
Like I said, I don't know what they would charge. They'd have to, the fire chief or whoever has to handle that as far as contacting a company to come in and do a study. We don't know what they're going to charge. Now, if I would ask for $50,000, they come in and they say they want $85,000.
So would it be allowable to change the language of your article to raise and appropriate up to $200,000 and not a set amount of $200,000?
Up to $200,000, yes, because if it comes in at 75 to do the study, the money doesn't stay for Station 17 because I'm not asking it to stay for Station 17. You follow what I'm getting at? So the balance would go back into the unassigned funds or whatever the case would be.
Joe, can I speak to that?
Yep. Go ahead, Derek.
So the way the petition was worded was for it to come from unassigned fund balance. So when we do the tax rate setting in the fall, we would have the appropriation of $200,000, but then we'd have an offset of $200,000 from unassigned fund balance. So we wouldn't be collecting any new taxes for this project. And if it were to come in below $200,000, and let's say we only spent $100,000, then you're going to end up not taking out that other $100,000 of it. I don't know that DRA would allow us an article that says up to 200,000. We will research that for deliberative session and can provide the Budget Committee that information. Because at this point, as a petition article, you have the ability to vote to recommend or not recommend this evening, but the only time the language can actually be amended would be at deliberative session.
Yeah, so right now, we have an up or down vote on this, and at deliberative session, we can talk more about that if we get to that. Go ahead, Jared.
Mr. Chair, the question that I have is to Derek. Is there any member of the fire leadership that can articulate the necessity or the need for this at our public session today? I think it would be good to hear from our leadership of the fire department on the importance of this item and whether they stand behind it.
Well, and just to add on to that, my plan was, after Mr. Martel was done, to invite up the fire chief to talk about response time in the area, just so we kind of have a holistic view of what that looks like. Are there any other questions for Mr. Martel? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, are you available?
Good evening, Brian Allard. I have the pleasure of serving as fire chief. To answer the question, Mr. Talbot, so Mr. Martel did come in to see me about this project. I had approached the board probably 6 months ago about a concern that I had one call firefighter in that district of town responding on a fire engine. It was unsafe for that individual to work out of that fire station alone. I made the decision to move that fire apparatus to our Church Street station. And since my time with Goffstown Fire, we have continuously attempted to draw in call firefighters for that district, and nobody's applying. So for a safety concern for our employees, made the decision to close that station and had that conversation with the select board. I don't know what the cost would be for that. I'm not a structural engineer. We would have to go out to ask somebody to see if that's a viable option.
So, go ahead.
And then just first, as I've said a few times, it's one thing to have a station that is suitable to have staffing in, but there's also the other side of that is you have to staff it at some point as well. And that comes at another cost that the town would have to consider in the future.
My question to you is, so the station was operating 6 months ago with one firefighter. So other than personnel issues, there was no reason to shut the station down?
There's arsenic in the well.
Okay.
There's contaminants from carcinogens in the building. It's just if you haven't been there, I welcome anybody here to go to that station, and you'll see a drastic difference between a new station, Station 18, which is on Church Street, versus that station there. I can assure you nobody here would want to work out of that station.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Fred?
I think the more than perceived benefit for those living in East Goffstown is the difference in insurance when you have a station within 3 miles or further than 3 miles. Is that correct?
Sure, there's the ISO insurance standard ratings. It will make a difference.
And how much difference is there for a typical homeowner?
I don't know that number off the top of my head.
All right. Is this something the fire department could look into to see what it would take to get the fire station up to so it's safe again?
I think that's what this proposed study is for.
Okay, but I have no idea whether the 200,000 is enough or too much or what. So I just wanted to see if the fire department could do some research. That's all.
Sure. I see a question behind you.
Yep, Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Allard, would you like to see that station back open for the safety of the residents? Do you feel it's necessary?
So again, I think that comes with the secondary part of that too. It's not only the station being open, is the town going to also fund staffing that as well, because you need people to be in the building.
Right, so I understand it's a slightly more complex issue.
It's definitely a bigger complex issue that the community would have to support.
If you could staff it, though, you'd probably like to see it open, or do you feel confident with your response times now?
If I had my way and budget was not an issue, yes, I would like people there and the new building and staff for the community.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve, that was the question. Okay. Any other questions from the committee? All right, thank you, Chief, for coming up.
Oh, I see.
Sorry. Evelyn, sorry. You're behind Jared, my bad.
See if this works? Nope.
No.
Okay. Chief Allard, if that station were to reopen, would it require more staffing?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Are there any more members of the public that wish to testify or speak on this article or any articles or any budget items on the town side? Ellen.
Yes, thank you. Main Street program, I'd like to ask that the Budget Committee support this article for the $15,000. The funds go to support our activities and our overhead as operating expense. I have heard today someone say, well, you're not going to do Old Home Day. We have a very small group of people that do all the work for Main Street. It comes directly on top of us doing the golf tournament, which is our most significant fundraiser for the program. We are looking for other nonprofit organization in town, and we'd be willing to help them if they'd like to take it on, at least for this year, and make that day happen. We don't want to see it go, but we also have to look at the reality of our our board members. And like everybody keeps telling me, everybody's so busy. Well, we're keeping Main Street going as a 100% volunteer organization. And if there's an organization in town that would like to take this on, we'd be willing to help them. We have the background information for the things that we've tried to do on that day. So please let us know. And Main Street isn't just the activities, but the activities we bring to the village area, I think are sometimes fall underappreciated by some. We bring the community together. We support our businesses by bringing thousands of people into town to see what we have here and to shop and to eat and enjoy the community. We do have someone on our board who is a member of EDC, our Economic Development Council. We had a representative on the Pedestrian Bridge Committee. We want to help improve the village area aesthetically and to help if in any way we can. That's why we have someone who's on the EDC, not only for Main Street, but for the whole community, Goffstown. What kinds of things can be done to help them? We do have facade grants we give out. They have to be requested if someone wants to maintain the historical preservation of their building. We're willing to help with that financially. We feel that we've done a great deal to help our community, to bring recognition to the village area, to help our businesses become more visible to the community. We reach over 4,000 people on a regular basis on Facebook and Instagram. We welcome our businesses to advertise through us, to try and recruit employees. As we all know, that's a tough thing to do these days. So I would ask for your ongoing support and also at the same time express a great appreciation for the public support for these many years for the program. And if anybody would like to volunteer to be on the board, please let us know. We'd welcome you with open arms. We need more people to help do the work. If anybody's ever tried to organize anything like Old Home Day and the Uncommon Art and the Regatta and Friday Night Under the Lights, it is not easy. And we are doing it as 100% volunteers. So I just ask for your support and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Any other members of the public wish to speak before I close public hearing? Okay, great. So I'm going to use the gavel and close the public hearing. We're going to open up the Budget Committee meeting. So I'm going to start this meeting by approving the minutes from the January 4th, 2022 meeting, which was last week. Every member of the committee has a copy of that with them. Does anyone have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Goffstown Budget Committee meeting minutes from January 4th as presented.
Okay, there's a motion by Jared. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Stacy. So there's no members of the committee attending remotely. So I'm just going to ask for a show of hands. All those in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstained.
I abstain.
Okay. Skylar, Spencer, and Lauren abstained for our minute taker. Okay. So next thing, I'm going to start with the school side. So if I'm doing anything wrong here, please let me know.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to recommend Article 2 of the school operating budget of $48,854,882 as presented.
Okay, there's a motion by Jared to approve the operating budget at that set amount. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, was that Stacy or Lauren?
Lauren.
Lauren, okay. Second by Lauren. I'm actually going to turn around to the side if that's okay.
Mr. Chair, this is a vote to recommend.
All right, so the vote was to recommend. Am I going to fall off?
Careful that edge, Joe.
Yeah. If I fall off the
Mr. Chair,
stage.
careful.
What, am I falling off?
It's very close, sir. There we go.
All right. So the vote was to recommend, or the motion was to recommend. Second by Lauren. Discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move to amend the motion to reduce it by $2,000 to $48,852,882. And the logic, frankly, going through what we went through, this budget was very lean and mean. And there wasn't much to pick at, but I'm going to pick at one little thing, and that's the water for $2,000 at Maple Ave General. $2,000 cost of bottled water no longer funded by the parent, the PFT. I think they can find the money somewhere.
Okay, well, that motion's in order. Is there a second to that? Anybody? Sorry, Fred. So the motion on the table is the full operating budget at the set amount that by Jared.
Who seconded that?
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Or raise your hand. Okay. All opposed? One opposed. Abstention? Okay. How many members do we have, just so I have the numbers right?
12. We have 12. And did any abstain?
No. So 11 to 1 to 0. So that motion passes. I'm looking for a motion on Article 3.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion on Article 3, which is the teacher collective bargaining agreement, to vote to recommend the increases as presented in the warrant article.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second that one.
Seconded by, I saw Evelyn's hand.
Okay.
Yep. Any discussion on this? Okay, I will say I really did look in the budget and looked into this collective bargaining agreement, and I think my issue is not at all with our amazing teachers. I think the issue is the fact that I asked multiple times in different ways in the meeting about, what's the difference between having a class taught by a teacher with a bachelor's compared to a master's degree? Is there like different outcomes from that? And as somebody with a master's degree, had a bachelor's degree, I don't know, and I didn't feel like I got that answer. And I really appreciate all the work the teachers are doing, but I'm gonna just abstain from it because I think the 6% for 3 years is just too much for me. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Okay, so it's 12 to 0 to 1. 11 to 0, 1? Okay, 1101.
1101.
Perfect. All right, number 4, we don't have that one.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I move Article 5, vote to recommend the Facilities Capital Reserve Fund deposit of $200,000 from the unassigned fund balance.
Is there a second to that? Second by Fred? Sorry, I keep breathing into this. Any discussion on this? This is the $200,000 deposit in the Capital Reserve Fund. Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Any abstentions?
I didn't catch this. I didn't catch that. This, two opposed?
We had 12 members, 3 are opposed, so it was 9
3
to
are
3.
opposed. Okay,
Yep.
I didn't see it. Yeah.
Yep, 9 to 3 to 0. Huh?
Was there 3 opposed?
Are you all set?
She was asking who the third one was.
So it was Richard Manzo, Spencer Dias, and myself. All right, so that covers all the business on the school side of the budget. I'm going to move over to the town. So I'm going to look over to Mark. I'm going to start with the Article 1. I don't have the article numbers in front of me.
She usually starts with Article 2, right?
Article 2.
Yeah. See if the town will vote to raise, appropriate,
Just speak into the mic if you could.
oh, I'm sorry, I thought they could hear me. See if the town could vote to raise, appropriate $492,851 for the purpose of general fund EMS. Said fund to come from the Emergency Medical Services Special Revenue Fund, as previously established in 2001. This appropriation is offset by the revenues and the ambulance insurance payments, and there will be no funds raised from general taxation. Passage of this article will reduce the operating budget in Article 1 by $492,851.
Was that, would you like to make a motion on that?
Yes, I'll make a motion on that.
To approve it?
Approve it, yes,
Okay.
sir.
So the motion was marked by to approve the budget, seconded by Evelyn. Any discussion on town operating budget?
That was Melanie.
Huh?
That was Melanie. Oh, sorry.
I saw Evelyn's hand. It's Article 2. I'm sorry, Article 1.
Yeah, I confused Mark. I thought the operating budget was Article 2. My apologies.
The motion was to approve Article 1, the town operating budget.
Okay,
Mark made a motion.
So that budget number for the, shall the town vote to appraise appropriate operating budget not to include appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately in the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant, or as amended by voters the first session for the purpose set forth therein, totaling $26,753,131. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $25,906,844, which is the same as last year in current adjustment required by previous action to the town, Goffstown, or by law, the governing body may hold special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013 to take up. I approve the article anyways.
Okay, so the motion was to approve the article at that set amount. And is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Seconded by Skylar. Is there discussion on this? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so the only opposition, Evelyn. All right, so we're going to go to Article 2. Is there a motion on Article 2?
I kind of read it and made it.
Okay. I'm going to entertain that motion that you said
I
before.
support that article.
Perfect. So there's a motion for Article 2. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Evelyn. Any discussion?
We did it at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Any discussion? No discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that passes unanimously. All right, we're looking Article 3, the Firefighter CBA. Is there a motion on Article 3?
I'd like to make a comment if possible. As we heard earlier this evening from Derek and I believe Chief Allard as well, a lot of the firefighters we had left to go other places. We have always, in years that I have been associated with the fire department in town and with the fire department, we've always done pretty good satisfying the salaries for the members of the department that work diligently, very hard every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But there's always a vicious circle that goes round and round and round. We will be at the head of the pack if this contract passes. 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, we won't be at the top because somebody else is coming in and they're going to beat the money that we've currently put on the market for the firefighters. Firefighters have a dream to work to support the people and do the best they can do in the town. I support Article 3. And I'll read it if possible. Shall the town vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between Select Board and Professional Firefighters of Goffstown Local 3420, International Association of Firefighters, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. Fiscal year 2022 is $106,202. Fiscal year 2023 is $86,017. 2024 is $79,984. Any further raises and appropriation of the sum of $106,200 for the current fiscal year. Such sum represented the additional cost attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits inquired by the new agreement over that would be paid for by current staffing levels. This is appropriation in addition to Article 1.
Okay, so the motion was to approve Article 3. Is there a second? Seconded by Melanie. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Abstentions? All right.
And what was it?
Unanimous. Okay, so we're going to go to Article 4. Is there a motion on Article 4? I'll make a motion to approve Article 4.
Mr. Chairman, you can't make a motion. I shall.
Okay, I thought I could.
Not as chair.
All right, well, go ahead, Fred. You can take your motion. All right, is there a second?
Okay, Fred.
Seconded by Richard Manzo. Discussion? Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so it was 11 to 0 to 1. Evelyn abstaining. Article 5. It's the fire suppression system for the Public Works Garage. Is there a motion on that article?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we recommend Article 5.
Okay, motion to recommend by Richard Manzo, seconded by Spencer Dias. Any discussion on this article? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? That's unanimous. Okay, so Article 6 is the air curtain burner for DPW. Is there a motion on that? Evelyn?
I move to support Article 6.
Motion to support Article 6. There a second? Second by Fred. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Abstentions? So it's 11 to 0 to 1. I'm the one. All right, Article 7. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $75,000 to replacing a truck scale at DPW transfer station.
I make a motion we support Article 7.
Okay, motion to approve Article 7 from Mark, second by Melanie. Any discussion? Go ahead, Fred.
I'll just say this is a very heavy subject.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? That was unanimous. Okay, Article 8. It's 10-year update on the town's GIS mapping data. Is there a motion on that article?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 8.
Okay, motion by Skylar to approve Article 8, second by Stacy. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, 11 to 0 to 1. Evelyn's abstaining. All right, Article 9, Crispin's House. I'm not able to make a motion, but I wish I could make a motion. It's for Diane, but Fred's stopping me. So is there any motion on that?
I'll make a motion, we support Article 9.
Okay, so a motion by Mark to support, second by Stacy. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that's unanimous. All right. Article 10, so Goffstown Main Street. Is there a motion on Goffstown Main Street? Fred.
Reluctantly make a motion to not recommend.
Motion
Select
not
Board
recommend.
already did that.
Yep.
And the 15,000, when we heard the budget presentation, it didn't make sense. The numbers didn't add up. And I realize it's a voluntary organization trying to string things together at the last moment, but the substance was not there. And but I would like to hear if there's some alternative in place from the Select Board. I know when they chose not to recommend, but I make a motion to not recommend.
Okay, the motion is to not recommend. Is there a second?
Second here.
Second by Stacy. Discussion on this subject. Go ahead.
I agree with Fred that I don't think it was, the presentation was there. I think the Select Board also said, I don't think it was you, Fred, Mark, that was there, that the plan originally when this was brought out was to decrease it slowly over the years, and it hasn't been decreased over the years. It's kind of stuck at this 15,000 for a few years. I think they mentioned in the presentation that they have a healthy savings of like 200,000, and my concern was this was just going to continue to pad that amount. I don't see that the presentation offered a reason why this would be needed in the budget. They got rid of the paid members in the group, so they're voluntary members. I don't know why we're going to continue to ask for this in the budget at this point. So I agree with, that's my opinion as well.
Okay, anybody else?
I also had reservations with the presentation itself. I don't have reservations about the validity of the program and the importance to Goffstown, so I share concerns. I wish there was a way that we could, or the Select Board had seen a way to put in some kind of oversight. I recognize that the Goffstown Main Street program has just recently made some changes. So it's only, we want to be careful with every dollar, but it is $15,000 to see if 1 year and these changes that they've made, with the understanding that they need to be a little more fiscally responsible or transparent to both boards. I think it's worth it for what it does bring to Goffstown. That's where I want to spend my money, is those sort of events. I've gone to a lot of them, and it's also part of the reason that I moved to the town. So I do share the concerns, but I think that for 1 more year, given that they have recognized that they need to make changes, is not much more to ask of the committee.
Okay, anybody else? Melanie.
Let's hope my mic's working. Thank you. I share the concerns about the accounting side of their presentation, not about the intent of the program or the benefits to the community. I do have an additional concern now that it's a voluntary organization. I think that having an individual whose primary focus was to take over the programs such as Old Home Day and make sure that they're carried out effectively would have gone far towards gaining some confidence in their ongoing activities. But again, we didn't get a lot of detail about where the money was going and how eventually it would be self-sustaining. So those are my concerns.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Fred.
This is my motion to not recommend is for the current fiscal year we're voting on coming up.
Right.
They could come back in the future with a better organized, better presentation. We could listen again.
Yes, that's correct. Okay, I'll just add, I just had a problem. I'll be voting with Fred because I just had an issue with voting to give money for a budget that wasn't finalized yet by their board. And I would just like to see more additional oversight in the future about, coming forward with a budget that has been approved by your board of directors and then sent to us, who are responsible with determining the tax rate in town. So that's what I would add to that. All right, so the motion is to not recommend. So if you're voting yes, you're voting to not recommend Goffstown Main Street. So, oh, is there a second? It was seconded by Stacy. Okay, so all those in favor of not recommending, please raise your hand. Those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so it was, there's 12, right? So it was 10 in favor of not recommending, 1 opposed, that was Lauren Dukas, and then the abstention was Evelyn Redmond. Got it? Good. Okay. All right. We have one more, right? Don't we have
Station 17.
That's right. I forgot that one. Okay. So the last one is the petition article about Station 17. I'll open up discussion on that before anybody wants to make a motion, unless they want to do that now. Go ahead, Fred.
I'm going to be the heavy tonight and move to not recommend. Not that it isn't worthwhile looking into, but I would ask the chief to do some further work and come back with something more solid next year.
Okay, so the motion was to not recommend. Is there a second? Seconded by Melanie. Any discussion on this? Go ahead, Evelyn.
I just want to agree with Fred that I'd like to see more input from the department as to whether they do some more research and come up with some more definite numbers to fund the study.
Okay. Stacy?
I think there's enough interest in the town to do a study to see what is needed to get that back up. I don't think anyone's proposing at this point to reopen that. I think at the end of the day, the town needs to hear that this is going to cost a lot of money to get that station back open. And I think at least getting the study to see that is going to show that to get that open is going to raise a lot of taxes. And I think if they're only asking for the study, I think it's worth getting a study to see what that is going to entail. I mean, over the years living here in Goffstown, I feel like that's such a theme that rattles through Goffstown every single year. And if it's a $200,000 study, which could be a $75,000 study, a $50,000 study to get the answer, I'm wondering if that's worth the Goffstown residents getting that answer. So I kind of feel like we should do this for the residents at this point.
Melanie.
I'd like to applaud Mr. Martell for bringing a spotlight on the issue. It's obviously concerning for his area, and it should be concerning for all of us because we are one town. But thank you for bringing that up, and I do think a study would be a great idea, but I think we need more information on it prior to approving a warrant article.
Thank you, Melanie. Jared?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This one I know that we just saw, we distributed it to us through email. I know that we've talked about it tonight. Whether we vote to recommend or not recommend, I would encourage that at the deliberative session, that this specific warrant article is brought up again potentially, and if we have a better number through an RFP process or any kind of reviews that have gone through to have a better number of what this would cost for a study, I would encourage that at deliberative session we potentially change the $200,000 to what it actually would be to do that study. So whether we vote to recommend or not, I hope that this will come back and be discussed at deliberative, and hopefully the number will change so that we could do the study to look at this station.
Well, and process-wise, I believe I have the ability to call a meeting immediately after deliberative. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I have the ability to call that meeting. If the number does change, the Budget Committee can revisit this issue too. Go ahead, Fred.
And if the number does change, even by $1, we can bring this up, and a not recommend could become a recommend.
Right. Good, Spencer?
I move the table, this warrant article, until a future date where we can meet when we have this information.
I second that.
Can we table a warrant article?
Okay.
Petition?
So, right, we need recommendations, so I'd ask kindly that you remove that motion, because we can revisit this issue at another time, and I have ability to call the meeting. And, you know, if we come to deliberative with some substantive changes, then we can, like, you have my word, we'll revisit this vote after deliberative, if that works for everybody else.
I rescind that then.
Okay. All right, so the motion was to not recommend, and any motion by Fred, second by Melanie. Any other discussion on this? All right, all those in favor of not recommending, raise your hand. Those opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Sorry, I need this one more time. So all those in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Opposite, those opposed? Opposed is Stacy, Spencer, and Lauren. And abstentions, Mark and Richard. So that's 5 to 3 to 2. That's not the right number. That's
Yeah, it's not the right number. You had at least 7.
7 to 3 to 2. There we go. Sorry, I'm having math problems right now. All right, so that was the motion. So that's.
I think the math teachers answered for you.
I know. I didn't go to Goffstown school. Sorry. All right. Any other? So I believe that concludes all our official business, right? Water precincts? I don't have those in front of me.
Were they presented?
They were presented and we pushed them through. We voted for them. Does somebody mind just get me the right language for that so we can make sure that goes through? Thank you. One second.
I'm confused.
I know. You tried though, Fred, you tried.
Do you have the specific language? Okay. Do you have the specific language on, is there going to be a separate warrant article or? Okay, so it's this number right here? Okay, so the Grassmere Village precinct dollar amount is, because Richard Fletcher is not here, so the total dollar amount is $352,459. That's as presented. Do I have a motion? Okay, Fred, motion to approve? Question?
Yes.
Okay, Fred motions to approve.
Second.
Second by Richard. Any discussion? Go ahead. This is the Grassmere Village precinct. $352,459. Okay. All those in favor? Those opposed? Abstentions? You abstain?
I'm in favor, sorry.
Okay,
I'm in favor.
so that's unanimous, approved. The second one is the Goffstown Village precinct. That amount is $1.287,056. Is there a motion on that budget as presented? Motion by Fred to approve. Seconded by, we'll do Melanie. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Those opposed? Any abstentions? No, that passed too. Unanimous.
I did try to water it down.
Thank you. All good? Okay.
Full of water tonight.
Is there any other new business for the committee? Okay, great. I'll entertain a motion. Motion from Spencer.
Seconded.
Second by Richard. Discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned. Okay.